to do a plan B means that your plan A is going to be way more of a real plan and not just a hope.
Yeah. I think that
I love it.
I think I've learned this in life, that if we're not attached to that outcome, so it's okay to have a plan A, there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to not be attached to it so much that if it doesn't happen, it causes disappointment and grief and sadness and all these other emotions that can just spiral us down. If we get unattached from it as if it's like an option, then we're going to be much more open to, how I say it, is having fun in life, taking risks, meeting people we'd never really thought we'd meet, or having conversations, or taking risks in relationship, whatever that is. You know, you're going to have a richer life. It's going to be so much more fun.
I love it.
It's just going to be so much more fun. I want to introduce you though, Rod. I feel like we could talk forever. So I do want to introduce you to all the guests who are watching today. And Rod and I met in a very interesting way. I was down in Austin, Texas, and I was just doing a little tour of a studio. And Rod was doing some work there with a couple gals. They were videotaping for Trusum. And I was talking to the girls, and I don't remember exactly what I said, Rod, but I said something about men, and that was probably coming from, and I'll tell you, I'm much better today than I was back in September.
No, you were fine.
You know that work we were talking about? How, yeah, it's been, a lot of work has been done. But that, I made a comment that was stemming from a place of not trusting men. And I said something to one of the girls, and Rod's over in the corner. I've never met him before. He's over in the corner, and he just pipes up and goes, "Not all men." Do you remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I was, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I probably shouldn't generalize men. And it was actually really good for me to hear that from a man. So that was how we met. And I've been wanting to talk to you ever since. So this has just been fantastic.
I love your work. And that my point was, you know, here's a man who loves your work. I could have said it that way, but it was just kind of like, it was just too perfect to say. Well, I would be different than that. And I think I'm a man. So not all men.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. We can't generalize. So Rod Hairston is a CEO of Trusum Visions, an international authority in mindset development, which is very exciting. I want to talk to you more about that. Peak performance training, behavioral conditioning, leadership, organizational culture, and human potential. I love that because so many people have said to me in my life that they live vicariously through me. And I always just want to hand it back to them and say, reach your potential. How can we help you reach your own potential? So I'd love for you to tell me a little bit more about Trusum Visions. And mostly I'm curious about how you incorporate fun into your company, because I know that you have people working for you who love working for you and with you, alongside you, to create this incredible impact on the world. So tell me a little bit more about your vision and everything fun.
Oh, thank you. So thank you, first of all. Thank you. Again, I love your work. And I heard you were a real big topic of conversation for months after you came with the work that you're doing. And we had a dinner one night, and we were just kind of talking about some of the work you were doing in Africa and what was happening, and the courage that you had to have to go into a situation like that and just use your emotional, mental, and spiritual power, right? Because again, it's a very vulnerable situation. And I think your example, just your presence and your example, gives more strength to those women than you can imagine. So I really, I've become a big fan of yours without knowing you. No. And the girls on the team really, you know, so in 3 different conversations, they would tell me, you know, about some of the conversations you had and how you wanted to talk. And hopefully, I want you to know, I didn't take what you said the wrong way at all. All I saw was you were a passionate woman and you were in a warrior mode.
Yeah.
You were talking to women. And sometimes it's just not fair to barge into a conversation that where you wouldn't have said that to me, or you would have said it differently. if you
Sure.
focus. So I get that. I don't want you to ever think I think anything other than that. It just is you're passionate, and I'll take your passionate generalizations over people doing nothing any day.
Yeah.
So
Thanks for that.
Trusum Visions is really a holding company for some really cool brands that Envision You, Growth You, NASP, National Association of Sales Professionals, Evoli, and which company am I missing? Vision You, Growth You,
Well, there's quite a few
NASP. Yeah, right. And so I'll tell you how it seems like we were a little scattered, but we had one company in Vision U, and we really got busy, and we started working with some really big companies, and really having an impact. One of those organizations was Quicken Loans.
Okay.
And our job was to help them develop a phenomenal culture. And we started working with the leaders and the culture. And they were like, well, Rod, we need sales training too. So we developed sales training. And then on the weekends, we would do programs for the family members called the challenge event, so that we can continue to reinforce this culture, but help people take it home and really have more of that life balance. So we would do events on the weekend that would be 300-400 people coming sometimes. Right? People bring their family members. You have a question?
Yeah, the culture. When you say culture, because I'm doing something similar with infusing companies and businesses with a fun culture. Now, there's a lot of depth to that fun, because fun can be quite serious. But would you say that's part of, like, when people come to you or when you start doing this training, what is it that keeps them there or wants them to come back or recommends them
So
to someone
in
else?
all of our and when people list that, we have a process to where we turn words, people put words on a wall and they call them values, and they think that that is going to change a culture, and it's not. The leader's philosophy on life, the leader's influence ability, the executive team's influence is going to have an impact on that culture. So we support people in going through a process where you bring in people that represent more departments in the organization or teams.
Yep.
And then we facilitate a process over 2 days where you turn these values into what we call isms. And isms are identity, purpose, values, beliefs, behavior, and ultimately habits. And so, and people will enhance, they'll work on these, they'll vote on these, they'll debate, they'll come up with the definitions, and we let them, and it's got a cross section of the organization. Every company we've ever done this with, and I think we've done now probably about 300 workshops.
Okay.
Right. But we would do 2 days and then 45 days of an integration.
Yeah.
Right. If fun is not part of it or enjoyment, we're like, we really push. Because what people don't understand is that that's what we're designed to be. Fun gets more done, right? Fun, scientifically, what fun does for the nervous system is the most healthy thing that you can have, right? It's like fun seems trivial.
Or frivolous.
However, it is the most important thing in an organization in the world that we live in today.
I couldn't agree more.
Because you're not going to, in the old days, you could have more of the wild, wild west where if you don't do this, we don't survive.
Right.
So many old dudes are still trying to like lead with that.
I know.
And we know that's not true.
No.
We even look around right now with what's going on and we're fine. Yeah. So the days of like driving performance with fear are dead.
Yeah, I agree. Totally. And that's why we need experts in fun. I just happen to be one. I think you happen to be one too.
I love it. I love the chief fun officer. I love that.
Yeah.
I love and I love that the courage. And so many times people push back, like, well, Rod, can we change the name? Fun is, and I'm like, look at your face. You look constipated right now. And even saying that, how is that helping anybody in the room right now?
Yeah. Like,
and they all go, Rod, I can't believe we've been sitting here for 12 hours and I could still go on. Why? Because we're having fun.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And so that is the key to the culture of businesses that I think are more profitable, who are surviving during this time and any time, who have employees that would rather stay there than take a pay raise at another company because they feel like their family is there. They feel like they've been able to build relationships with the CEO or, you know, whoever is the hierarchy. Maybe the hierarchy doesn't even exist because that's a lot more fun too. And everybody has their place and their purpose. You know, those are the businesses that are thriving. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I go
It's a psychology behind it. And I love your courage to use the word. People try to change the word around a bit, but I think you should go right at people with it's fun. Fun gets more done.
Yeah.
And right, all
Yeah,
the time.
all the time. And I say to people who are question the word fun, I say, well, okay, we can talk about fun as in parties on Friday afternoon with the staff, but we can also talk about fun being, wouldn't it be more fun to not lose 30% of your profit because your employees are not engaged?
Right.
And because you're having so much turnover and having to retrain people because they don't want to be there. Wouldn't it be fun to not have that situation? So that's where, you know, fun is a serious thing too. It just depends how you look at it. But of course,
Yeah, fun, you know,
too.
challenge is fun, right? So for me to be proactively challenged, not reactively challenged, but proactively challenged is fun. For you to do things to engage my imagination and support me in being focused is fun. For you to show me how to utilize everything in my space to support me in having higher level performance is fun. For you to ask me questions where I can learn more about myself and learn more about the people that I'm dealing with is fun. For you to teach me how to get in rapport with people and like them and trust them and respect them is fun. Right? It's like
you got it.
Right.
And that's where, Rod, what we were saying before about meeting people where they are is going to be my job with, you know, using my own creativity and intuition, because not everybody's going to get it like you get it. But through the explanation and working with people, I guess I got to a point where I wanted more people to be happy. And with the break between the lack of communication between kind of millennials and senior executives, they just have lost, you know, it becomes a fad to quit corporate. And not everyone can, as you know, not everyone can do what you're doing as an entrepreneur. Not everyone can do that. And so why not just make 9 to 5 okay and more.
Absolutely. You know, I'll tell you a story. I was working with one of the more conservative companies in the country. Everybody had to wear blue suits, right? And they made so much money that they would comply. And so when we got hired to come in, they interviewed us like 4 times, but they really loved the results that we got from one of the other clients. And so the leader, so we did the first day of training, and he pulled me aside afterwards and he goes, you know, I'm really having a tough time with all of this laughter and humor and fun. Like, you're saying some really great things, but let's get serious. And I was like, okay. I said, your workshop will support you the way we need to in the next couple of days. And that night we went out and those executives got drunk, belligerent. They were rude with the waitresses. They were like off-putting. He was off-putting. His tie was over his head. So the next morning before the meeting, I said, let me explain what happens when you repress yourself.
That's good.
And I showed him a video on the phone of his team last night.
Right.
And I said, that's called Lawsuit City.
Yeah.
And I said, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen in wacky, wrong ways because you've made it wrong.
Right. Instead, let's encourage it.
Let's encourage it.
Ways.
Right. Let's encourage it. Let's tie it into what they have to do consistently, and you'll watch it happen. Another case where I went into a company and and her name was, she was this very successful person, and she hired sight unseen. She heard about me. She goes, I want you to come down. The people in her office were crying. They work late at night. She goes, my people are so hardworking and they're so committed. And I just want them to have a better life. And I work so hard and I give them everything and yada, yada. So after about 3 weeks of being in working with the team, she was the problem.
Right.
Super dramatic. So
what did you do about that?
I asked her to go to her house in Park City for a month.
Okay.
And I got her to do it. When she came back, we had triple the revenue. People were going home at 5 o'clock. And everybody was so buoyant and happy and joyful and laughing.
Wow.
And she came back, and she's a money person.
Right.
So I thought she would be very, very happy with her revenue and
Right.
the profit and the turnover. People that were about to quit were not going. It was like crazy. So we went in her office, and she was, I've never seen anybody that mad at me, but unable to say anything, because everything to measure the success we had exceeded.
Wow.
And she was pounding her fist on the desk, and finally she goes, "I can't keep it in. You've ruined my company." And I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Just imagine if they were committed like they used to be, what we could get done. They're going home early. They're happy. I hear laughter, And I said,
Interesting.
but Susan, what? And she goes, "I don't care about the money." And I was like, okay. And this is when I came up with the 45-day challenge. I said, so you don't care about the money. I think you care about it so much that you think you can get double if you went back to your old broken process.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, so your company, your way. I'm leaving. She goes, "Whoa, that's a threat." And I'm like, no. I'm leaving if you cannot for 45 days be this person. And I sat there for an hour, and I wrote out how she needed to be. And I put the threat on the table because that's what she knew. That's how, and I knew that, we're not going to walk out and tell a staff that's been being a certain way for a whole month.
Right.
And doing such a great job that they got to go back to the other way. I'm like, no.
They don't quit.
They'd all quit. And I was, and so for those of you listening, I want you to be not that cruel to threaten somebody. I gave her way of communicating. This is how she did it, and I gave it back to her. And so for 45 days, I held her accountable to changing her style, because it's just a habit.
I was just going to say, it's a habit, and she's focused on.
That's exactly right.
Walking in that room with all that anger, it's because she's focused on something she can't even identify.
Exactly right.
Like you said, you're saying out loud you don't care about the money, but you actually care so much that you don't even know.
That's exactly right.
And so what a challenge for you to change her thinking. Because I was going to ask you, often it's the CEO. How do you get rid of them? But you work with her.
Right.
45 days?
45 days.
On mindset?
On her mindset, her influence, her team building, and her performance.
Wow.
Yeah, those are core categories.
And the outcome?
And the outcome was phenomenal. The office grew. They built another location, and it worked beautifully. She still was uncomfortable, and she still would make little snide remarks, but she would not break her system. It's like we built a fun system that was bigger than a CEO. Right. It was her
ego. But for, my entire life, 40 years or whatever how old she is, I've been living in this comfort zone, and it's worked. So quote unquote worked, and getting out of that comfort zone always causes that thing inside to go, not sure. And it comes out in different ways for different people. Like for her, it came out in anger. Other people, it comes out in complete paralysis. If they can't do anything when pushed to the edge, right? So other people are like, yeah, baby, where are my wings?
That's right.
They just fly. So
she's the driver. And because she wasn't able to drive in her mind. Yeah. And it's like, the mature companies operate fund systems.
Yeah.
And your job is to coach your people into making it in that system, not to evaluate and drive your people to leave your organization.
Right. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
Take you back. When you were 10 years old, where were you, and what did you think you'd be doing? Like, what was your plan A? If you even had a plan A, but what did you imagine yourself to be as an adult?
At 10, I don't really think I imagine myself as an adult at 10.
Do you now?
I think I'm 11. Exactly. I really do. I really think I do need to grow up a bit. No. I think that the way I grew up, my imagination had to become more of a bunker than it was a compelling future maker. So I would use my imagination more for,
Interesting.
you know, to more for just the protection zone, especially at 10, right? That was when, and I just kind of remember always living in my imagination because it was better than the reality in my mind at that time. So I think that I didn't think future. I thought differently, or I thought like just this is a makeshift reality for me, and it became just as powerful as my.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So was there, if I may, was there something that happened, a trigger in your life that really made you want something different really badly? Like, I'm not talking about, like, I don't have a major, something horrible happened to me and I decided, to be a different person. But I think I've had things along the way that have just guided me. Was there anything specifically that guided you to just want this higher level of thinking? Not for all the people you have trained and could train, but for yourself, because really it is for you, right? So what was it that made you want that?
Well, I think for me, I grew up really, I grew up really not thinking I belonged in the environment that I was in. So but it wasn't abusive. I just thought these people are strange, especially the mama one and the daddy one. Like they're strange, and you felt like you could not wait to, be able to, like, my whole life was get away. It was get away in my head,
run away,
get away, but get away without I loved everybody around me, but I would just give it away, make up for it. Go be, go be alone, go be by myself. I loved being alone.
It sounds really familiar.
It sounds familiar. So
yeah.
I think that I didn't really, my father was a very depressed person. He was a huge IQ, came back from Vietnam, couldn't vote, really, really, really bitter. And he did not like having a son that had to be raised in this country, that in his mind was so racist and he saw everything. His mind was so big that he saw everything. And it was just a very tough time having a family and for him. And then my mom was the sort of martyr of the whole thing. So I think the only thing I thought about growing up was I was going to grow up and be a big and strong enough person one day to confront my father and like he's not going to push me around, so that was my whole goal. I think that's the only thing I visualized is that. And I think before that could happen, he died. And so I had to do something with all of that purpose and
superpower.
That superpower, right? I had to pivot, right? Flex and flow into really taking that angst and turning it into something that can support me. And then while supporting me, people would come up and say, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
I would just, it was like I was. I love the movie Forrest Gump, and one day I felt like going for a run. The next thing you look back and people are following you, and you're like, why you? And then I guess people justified it, right. And so after a while, you kind of go, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe this has always been a calling, because always people would go out of their way, even as a teenager, to get coaching and support. And I think because I never, ever, ever saw any type of attention or significance or attention from other people, it just wasn't necessary for me. And I guess in some ways it made me more of a leader, but it wasn't the purpose of being that way. I didn't do it to be a leader. It
It just happened because you
Just happened. Yeah, I just never cared what people thought.
right. And that's, I think the key to being a leader, because it means you're willing to take those risks that other people won't. And that's why people follow.
Yeah, exactly.
And people also follow the people that don't know. They're like, the leader doesn't always know that they're following, because they're just being you. You're just being you.
Right.
It's not that you had to try or anything. There was just the gifts and the talents you had naturally, but then all of the work that you did to grow to become that man that wanted to, stand up to your father. But then all these things are inside you. It's like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And you just keep living and moving forward. But
Absolutely.
I love what you said about how this is really ringing true to me, that you said you didn't feel like you belonged. And interestingly, I won't go on about this, but interestingly enough, I feel often that way. And as a singer, I'm on stage, but I always would be like, I don't need to be on stage, but I'm naturally and just good at it. So it's like my element. But then I want to run into the forest and just live a quiet life alone. Because I also feel like I don't always belong on this planet, or that I feel so deeply like the pain and everything sometimes just sits. It feels like it's sitting on my shoulders, and I have to remember, it's not just mine to bear, and that people like us are doing this together. It takes a team, almost like the front lines in a war. I think of that, like one person can't go out and fight the war on their own. But when you have many people thinking like-minded, all in a row, holding hands, I want to say holding hands with no weapons in my war, and taking a step forward, how powerful is that?
It's very powerful. It's a beautiful image.
Yeah. So
you're right. I mean, and I think that's what makes you, that's what I appreciate most about you, because that's more of it's like a lot of our gifts come from sort of the things that makes us a bit abnormal, right? And so you're very authentic in that way. And that's how I feel all the time. I feel like I used to call it sabotage. I've sabotaged so many things because I just do not want the energy coming at me for something that isn't as important to me. So being good at that doesn't make it to where I want you to pour energy or give me significance that I'm not asking for. So I've always been that way.
Totally. So what is the most important thing to you?
The most important thing to me is the name of my company. The most important thing to me in life is to grow consistently. So my two top values is love and growth. They'll switch, right? For love and growth, growth and love and growth, growth and love. And I switched them. It used to be freedom. It used to be freedom, freedom, freedom. Yeah. Freedom from all. I did not like to be locked down to anything. And I changed it to growth.
Yeah.
Because that's really what I was looking to. That's why I wanted to be free, is in order to grow.
To grow, right.
And I think that the fulfillment comes from that. And I needed to learn that love is way more than an emotion. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have an antithesis. The antithesis of love is not hate. That doesn't make any sense, right? It's like if the love has any antithesis on a human level, you could call it fear, I guess. But
I would think that. I would agree with that.
Mm-hmm. I think that love is, for me, it allowed me to do exactly what you said do, not to recognize that I had to love people enough to not take on their pain so much that I took away from their experiences and lessons.
That's a lesson.
Right. And so that's what the love taught me. Like, okay, Rod, if you love them, then what you'll do is you'll smile with them, and you'll support them, and you'll have faith that they can get through this like you got through yours.
Right.
You're not here to rescue people from their life's lessons and their life's goals and everything that they're bringing into their life, their destinies. That's not what you're here for.
No, and you won't be able to. The thing is with doing that, I think you never can control what they choose.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can't possibly, and I know I've made this mistake too, is trying to take it on help them understand what their potential is. It's like, because you can see it. I think that's the superpower, is being able to see other people's potential, but they have to choose it. They have to lean into it. They have to walk into it and decide.
Right.
So I love that. And
The only way you're going to do that is value growing. You got to grow. You cannot fall in love with the certainty of being stagnant.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Lead with love. I think people think that's a little bit frivolous too, because I say that a lot. Lead with love. Just lead with love in all your decisions, in your thoughts, in all the interactions you have. If you lead with love, nothing can really go wrong, because even if your follow-up is with love, there's no greater thing, really.
No, you're right. Absolutely. And, and it's kind of, and it's all about the magnified rebound. And I tell people, like, always rebound back to love, right? Because you're not always going to be in love.
Yeah.
But when you're not, how quickly you bounce back determines sort of your joy in life.
Yeah. Joy being like a state of mind.
Right. And stop trying to be like perfect, faking love is not being in love.
No.
Right. Bounce back, authentically bounce back. You fall, get up quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So important, all these things. Oh, I just love talking with you. Okay, I have another question about, more specifically, in the last 5 months, because I think Trusum introduced some ideas and concepts to the public because of a need that was there, something that wasn't in your plan A, something that you've designed. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So we are introducing a certification.
Okay.
And the certification, we've had so many people come that's gone through our programs and say to me, hey, how do I work with you? And I really want to I want to support people through these programs. I want to do what you've done for me. I want to learn those skill sets. And we created and our process is like the human success operating system, where everything, and I tell people all the time, is inside out versus outside in, right? So you're looking out there and you're reacting to something that in here created in the first place.
Yes.
So
totally.
You'll never find it, because you're going and you're attacking the movie screen and you're not looking at the projector.
Sorry.
Right. I don't like this movie and it won't stop.
Yeah, exactly.
You're ripping down the screen and it's still on the wall, right?
I think in picture music videos are running through my head.
So we created, so the human success operating system is, again, the congruency of understanding how to communicate with all of your minds, right? Really, and it's so important to do everything with love, because love is acceptance, and there's no change without acceptance. So you have to love the things that you think you hate, because those things that you think you hate served you at a point, right? Maybe you were ignorant to what you were creating. Maybe you don't know why that pattern came. You don't know where the beliefs came from, but it served you. And now that you're in a new environment, it's not serving you. It's working hard to serve you, but it's not meant to be a leader. It's meant to be a servant. Right. You don't attack the servants. You just train them to do something different based on a new environment and a new situation.
Right. So for people watching who don't understand or haven't heard as much about neuroscience, Rod's very much talking about neuroscience right now and retraining the brain, because if we have our neurons are programmed, we've programmed them since childhood to be going a certain way. And that's the thing that's serving us, because it worked in the past, right? But if we're in this new environment, it's not working. And I wanted to take what you said one step further. You said, one thing leads to the next. And without the change, you can't have growth. Right?
That's right.
And that being the ultimate goal is growth. Then you have to kind of go through that sequence to get. Right. I love this idea, and that this is new and amazing. I want to know much more about it, but I'm fascinated by the neuroscience. And
absolutely. And we utilize, again, a lot of behavioral consistency and really changing that mind and changing the way the neurons work together. When so 45 days, 60 days, 30 days, based on what you're looking to do of consistency, 10, 15 minutes a day. Not, we tell people all the time, take action to build habits.
Yes.
And let the habits get the results for you.
Yeah.
Being so results oriented and going to grow before you change. You said it beautifully. You're going to run into a big roadblock because the mind loves to protect what's there.
Yep. Yep. It doesn't want to let go of it.
Doesn't want to let go of it because it's unconscious, which means it doesn't know good, bad, right, wrong. It doesn't care about your vision. It doesn't care about a compelling future. No. It only cares about surviving right now.
Yeah, the survival mode, right?
Right.
And that's what I think, to go back to the whole concept of fun, that survival mode, which is so protective of what we're used to, is what prevents a lot of people from taking those risks, having fun, growing, changing, trying on a new dress that you'd never put on before. Mm-hmm. That's how I think of it, What really is the worst thing that can happen? And I always say this, what's the worst thing? Mm-hmm. Really? Like even death. I'm like, all right, well, then I die. Right. My mom doesn't like it when I say that, but the worst in most things is not that bad, but the possible outcomes are endless.
Endless.
So go for it.
We always tell people to die to it. Always just die to it quickly. Die to the worst that can happen and then move on with your life.
And move on. Burn it up,
die to it, experience it, and you'll go, oh, okay. And then move on.
And then you want more.
You want more.
And then you want more growth, more change, more risk, more fun. Whatever the more is, you'll want more because you've tasted it now.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I want to wrap up here with a couple of fast round questions. So this is just kind of a little game.
Okay.
So I'm going to do, I don't have my timer on me, but 2 minutes. And I'm going to just throw some questions at you. Just answer as quick as you can. Okay. Or 1 minute. We'll see. Okay. Who was your favorite teacher and why?
Mrs. Nails, because she believed in me and was able to bring me out of like a little bit of la la land and really start learning how to be an adult and to be valuable to other people.
Cool. What's the best meal you've ever had?
Oh, geez.
I bet you know.
Probably at what's the name of the place? The guy won one of the chef things here in Austin, Texas, and it's an Asian fusion dish.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely delicious, and I kept getting more because I was like, they're not serving me enough, and I ended up eating like $500 worth of food. I think mine was $500, but it was a Uchi is the name of the restaurant.
Okay.
And that dish was amazing.
Amazing. When was the last time you had a massive, uncontrollable belly laugh?
Wow. I usually make people laugh, but me laughing with my executive assistant, Suhei.
Okay.
She's funny because she doesn't know she's funny.
I love that. I love it.
You know how people are funny? Like she's authentically just kind of like
really funny.
She is what you exemplify as fun. Like she is. You should put her picture on the poster because.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And last one. What do you want to be remembered by?
I want to be remembered by and for giving people the vehicle and the resources to self-discover.
That's beautiful.
Because it takes a lifetime, and even with 10,000 lifetimes, it's still more of you. So you might as well go for it.
Absolutely. No words. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yep, it's great. So for people who are watching, I just want to again thank Rod Hairston for joining us today. And Really, really great to get to know you and to chat a little bit further. So I hope this is not the end of our conversations.
No, let's do it again. Let's do it again. I would love to.